Today is Mother's Day, and I just want to say thank you to all the moms who made it out to church this morning, and to those listening in who are still enjoying your breakfast in bed. You deserve it. But before I get into my message, I want to take a step back, and I just want to ask you, what are some things that your mothers have said to you? My mom has told me many times, don't make that face or it'll get stuck like that. Clearly she was right. Don't sit that close to the TV or you'll ruin your eyesight. Is this a bad time to mention that I have to go to the optometrist next week? She said, don't stay up too late or you'll sleep in. I still struggle with that. But now that I'm out of the house and I'm grown, so to speak, I'm beginning to realize that these things weren't her nagging at me. It was my mother trying to teach me life lessons. Because one day, I realized as I lay in bed 1 hour after my class had started, she was right. Some lessons in life are learned the easy way, and some are learned the hard way. Proverbs 1 tries to help us avoid the hard way. As I mentioned, we're going to be in Proverbs 1 today, so if you've got your Bibles, I'll give you a moment to get them open. We'll start in verse 7. It reads, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck." I'm going to take a second to pause right here. I want to highlight a couple of things, because I think that there's a lot more here than we realize. First things first, what is wisdom? I mean, the verse says here that the Lord is the beginning of all knowledge, but fools despise wisdom. So what's the difference? Dr. Jensen notes that Solomon uses similar words such as wisdom and knowledge almost interchangeably here. So if wisdom and knowledge can be used interchangeably in this verse, then what do they mean? According to Abington, wisdom is a quality of mind which distinguishes the wise man. It is by virtue of which he is skilled and able to live well, and both succeed and counsel success. So, wisdom in this context is something of a virtue. It's something that enables people to both succeed and to help others succeed too. But where does this wisdom come from? I mean, the verse says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but what does that mean? To really understand it, I want to focus in on the word for fear. According to Dr. Gablin, the Hebrew word here is the term yira. And the term yira can be used to describe dread, terrified, standing in awe, or having reverence. With the Lord as the direct object, yira captures both aspects of shrinking back in fear and drawing close in awe. You see, it's not a trembling dread that paralyzes action, but it's neither a polite reverence. The fear of the Lord ultimately expresses reverential submission to the Lord's will, and thusly characterizes a true worshiper. But it cannot simply be a submission. The fear of the Lord yields to the love of God. When Jesus came down to earth, his tenderness replaced terror. People in the Old Testament were afraid of God, and rightly so. We see throughout the Old Testament many times when God unleashed his wrath on man. This certainly warrants being afraid of him. But the man who is afraid is not perfected in love. For wisdom to begin, we must have a reverential submission to the Lord that is highlighted by love. So, we've defined what a fear of the Lord is, but what about the beginning? If fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, does that mean that you only gain knowledge when you have a fear of God? I don't think so. because the word for beginning can also be translated as essence or chief part. To put this into different terms, a fear of the Lord is the essence of knowledge and wisdom. Having a submission to the Lord and a love for him is the very essence of knowledge. Verse 7 clearly outlines this basic principle that is intrinsic to faith. A fear of the Lord is attributed to a belief in God, which is the essence of knowledge. Parents, if you want wisdom in your homes, it starts here. You cannot pass down what you yourself do not possess. If you want children to listen to you, then you must listen to God. Before children can understand who God is, before they can understand what a reverential submission and love for God is, they understand who their parents are. They understand what it means to have a fear and a respect for their parents. They understand a love for their parents. Parents, or more specifically mothers, are one of the first lenses through which we all understand authority. Oftentimes, mothers can be primarily responsible for moral instruction. In verse 8, we are all advised to follow our mother's teachings. But why? Why listen to what our mothers have taught us? Well, because it leads to wisdom. And wisdom leads to life and protection. According to Gablin, obedience such as this brings grace and improves the life of the person who follows it. The one who loses the rough edges will present a pleasing presence to the world. Earlier, when I was writing this message, I did a little bit of research and I found a list made by a team of people who all shared things that their own mothers had taught them. And I want to share part of that list with you. Number 1, be empathetic. Number 2, children don't have to be perfect. Number 3, give love to anyone and everyone. Number 4, appreciate what you have now. Number 5, let your husband do it his own way. Number 6, ask for what you need. Number 7, don't wallow. Number 8, be resilient. Number 9, don't buy strawberries in January. And number 10, if you're angry, let it go. This may seem like a random list, and that's fair. When I was reading through it, it just seemed like generally good advice. But then I dug a little bit deeper and I realized that many of these things that these people's mothers had taught them are wise, biblical principles, whether they intended it or not. It's clear to see, but even take the number 9. Don't buy strawberries in January. Clearly, this isn't just talking about fruit. It's talking about patience. So much of what our mothers teach us is not just general advice. It's life principles that will help us to gain wisdom throughout our lives. It's advice that will help us in our spiritual walks. It's advice that will bless us like a garland to grace our heads and a chain to adorn our necks. It's kind of funny in a way. Every Mother's Day, children shower their moms with gifts. One of the most common things to give your mom on Mother's Day is jewelry. Something like a nice bracelet or some earrings, or maybe even a necklace. But the gifts that our mother gives us are far greater. What we don't realize is that throughout our lives, mothers bless us by giving us these same gifts. I'm not talking about jewelry. What I'm talking about is wisdom. Mothers teach us many things. They impart wisdom to us, and the text says not to neglect your mother's instruction, because what we learn from them will be a garland to grace our heads. What we learn from our mothers will be a chain to adorn our neck, a chain that we carry with us long after we have accepted it. Not everyone's story looks the same, though. Sometimes mothers aren't always biological. In Genesis 37:10, we see that sometimes the stepmother is spoken of as if the real mother. In other times, the grandmother or other female relative is thusly spoken of. Mothers aren't always the woman that gave birth to you. Sometimes a mother is someone who shows up and gives you guidance and care. But regardless of who this wisdom came from, it's crucial that we, as children, receive it. Wisdom is necessary even as we grow into adulthood ourselves. I want to go back to verse 7. It says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. But it also says that fools despise wisdom and instruction. In the verse, we see two types of people: those who accept wisdom and those who reject it. Rejecting wisdom isn't always something we consciously choose to do. Sometimes it's simply ignoring that motherly advice, rolling your eyes when your mom tries to help you with something, or thinking that you know better now. But obedience and acceptance of this wisdom protect you from dangers. Who here has heard the classic phrase, "If your friend jumped off a bridge, would you?" Now, I'm sure it was irritating to hear. You'd say to your mom, "No, of course not." But there's a lesson within that. Now, hopefully, you wouldn't jump off a bridge just because your friend was doing it. But what about going to a party that you're not supposed to be at? What about joining in with gossip or taking part in something you know you shouldn't? These things are all examples of ignoring that motherly advice. Since it's Mother's Day, I think it'd be fun if we went back and looked at an old story. A story that may be familiar to some of you. It starts like this. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dear," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out." Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blueberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this story, but in this garden, Peter the rabbit had a run-in with Mr. McGregor, and because of his disobedience to his mother, Peter lost his shoes, he lost his brand new coat, and he had to have tea for dinner instead of the milk bread and berries that his siblings got to eat. The point is, Peter didn't listen to his mother's instructions. He didn't heed her wisdom. And because of that, he nearly died. This isn't to say that if you don't listen to your mom, that you're going to get turned into a pie. But discarding that wisdom that is offered to you is like taking that chain that is meant to adorn your neck and leaving it in the box. Mothers may not be perfect. After all, there's no way that they can be. But regardless, they are God's tools to help teach us. So, the question is not, did your mother give you wisdom? The question is, will you wear it?